everyone, it's Bro finally watching another movie of the week, and the movie this week was The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in 2023. So if you haven't watched the movie, watch it now. If you're new to movie of the week, as we talk about a movie here, you guys comment below your thoughts, and in 2024 we're doing franchise and reboots and things of those elements. So I'm doing this Hunger Games movie, and then I'm going to do the first Hunger Games movie and none of the other Hunger Games movie, but I'll get more into why I decided to do that. So I think I said in my last video the Ballad, but it's the Ballad, which I don't even know what this word means. Anyway, moving on. I was a very big book nerd as a kid, and so I really loved the book series Hunger Games and really loved the movies, obviously. And then it was something where, over time I didn't read that much. And so I never read the book. I never read this book. But I was still very excited for this movie, And I was blown away from the movie. I almost saw it again in theaters, and we just did Mean Girls, and I kind of compare this to Mean Girls in a way because Mean Girls was more recent and this movie was more recent too, and it was something where I was excited for because of the movie, or movies I should say, in the past, and both really liked both of them, and I was excited to almost saw both of them again in theaters, but didn't. And so kind of comparing the two Mean Girls movies, the second one just doesn't compare to the first one. The first one is just so amazing, and so I was a little bit concerned because I remember I really loved this Hunger Games movie. Will I have the same thing? But I still loved it again. I did. This movie is amazing. And I think it's so interesting to compare this with the first Hunger Games movie. I actually did that originally. My first time watching this movie is I watched this movie and then I watched the first Hunger Games movie. And so because I did it in that way, I wanted to do the movie of the weeks in this order. But I think it's also interesting to either just watch the first Hunger Games movie and then watch this movie, or watch the entire Hunger Games series and then watch this movie. There's so many different combinations you could do about it, but I think there's something interesting about this, watching this movie first and then watching the other movie, because it's not like I've never seen the other movie, so I have some knowledge from that, obviously, in comparison. And it's interesting because obviously this one takes place before the other movie. This is the 10th Hunger Games, and that's 74th Hunger Games. So that came out first, and that movie came out first, so the 74th Hunger Games. So it's we know everything that happens then, but this is before, so it's what led up to it. And I think Suzanne Collins is a genius. Sorry I never read your book. I just don't read books anymore. It's not like I didn't choose your book to read, I just don't read books. But I think you're a genius, and what you came up with this movie and this backstory is pure geniusness. Okay, I looked weird when I did that, I'm sorry. But it's pure geniusness, and they already announced that they're doing a book of the 50th Hunger Games, and then there's going to be a movie already of the 50th Hunger Games, which is Haymitch's Hunger Games, and it's the Hunger Games with 48 people in the arena. So everyone was saying that was the next Hunger Games to do. Everyone wanted it, and then Suzanne delivered. And I mean, I don't think I'm gonna read the book, but I'm very excited for the movie. So it's why did Suzanne pick the 10th Hunger Games? Why didn't she pick, the first Hunger Games? Why didn't she pick a different Hunger Games? And I think there's something important about this Hunger Games that she picked, because it's really the way that the Hunger Games changed. And obviously it still had a lot of that element of the beginning of the Hunger Games. It's the early seasons of the Hunger Games, and it has some of that of what the war was like. I also do want to first talk about the cast. The cast is amazing, and Rachel Zegler it's kind of crazy because she's younger than me. She's a year younger than me, and it's kind of crazy to now see people on the screen that way when they're younger than me. In a way where it's kind of I'm looking up to them, but they're younger than me, and whatever. Anyway, but she's amazing, and it is something where they had to ask her to play this part multiple times, and she turned it down the first time. But I can't imagine someone else playing this part. And then Cornelius Snow, Tom Blash, he, this movie made him big, and he was perfect for the role too. And then Rachel's boyfriend was playing the other character, Sejanus. What is, they have weird names, and I'm so bad at names, so I'm gonna butcher all their names. Yeah, really great cast. And so it's something where there's this big war, and so they want to come up with something to punish the district. So they come up with this Hunger Games, which, you know, they go into the backstory of how the Hunger Games is created. And they do this thing, this Hunger Games, and like no one's really into it. Like the Capitol's not into it. They don't want to watch. They're like, you know, we have that nowadays. Like people would be like, we don't want to watch. Like we don't want to watch kids murder each other. Like we don't want to do it. And so the Hunger Games, you know, comparing this to the next Hunger Games, which we'll talk about more, obviously, like it's just so different, like how the Hunger Games is run. And so it's something where people, you know, the Hunger Games almost died. Like they didn't want to continue it. But it was like something where they needed to have, you know, something to continue it. And so, you know, you also kind of, I love a villain backstory. So this movie is a villain backstory, and I love villain backstories. And I find that so interesting because I hate like goody two shoes, whatever. You know, hero movies where it's like everything's perfect. I'm a hero. I just save the world. No, like what about the villains? Like why did the villain become how the villain became? And that's what this movie is. And it's something where, you know, right away he was born in a war. He had this trauma from this war, and then he, like, his family, like, they couldn't pay rent, like they, you know, didn't have food, like he didn't eat. And then he goes to this school where he's surrounded by rich people. He's surrounded by all this where he's like not it, and he has to pretend. And so there's, you know, you already get this right away, like first 5 minutes, you know, the trauma of what he's been through, and then he's like he's struggling real hard, and he has to pretend that he's something else. And so he finds out, you know, he thought he's gonna make money, but they're like, you only, or whatever. So it's interesting too, because there's not just the Hunger Games of like surviving and the prize that way. Big ass zit on my neck, it hurts. But there's a prize for him too. So there's, you know, there's stuff in stake for him even before he meets Lucy Gray. So there's stuff in stake for him. But then they find out that they only get this prize if, you know, they do well, you know, working this Hunger Games. And so it was something that the guy who created the Hunger Games was trying to like make the Hunger Games die, but then the game maker, I don't know, she's just like a villain character, like she just wanted to keep it going. And so he was like, I want to do my best. And he's someone who's really smart, so like he was like, yeah, I'm gonna meet like my mentee, he's a mentor, whatever, my tribute, that's the terminology they use. I'm gonna meet my tribute when she gets off the train. Like he was like, I'm gonna do something, you know, because I like, he's smart, he's like thinking out of the box. He's like, I'm gonna do this. Like it's such a surprise that they would do this. So that's what he does, and right away he has this like intense chemistry with Lucy Gray, and it's something that just feels so strong that right away. It's also something I noticed this time, where else the other time, my first time watching it, you know, I did notice, picked up on this, but especially this time watching, I'm like, wow, like they come in, it's like only a couple days, like these scenes are crazy, like what they've been through in this, you know, the first two parts are only like 5 or 6 days. Like it's a lot all at once. It's kind of crazy. A lot of things happen. Anyway, the Hunger Games is almost dying, so the game maker wants to think of ways to save the Hunger Games. And so, you know, he's not, Tom's character Cornelius isn't Snow isn't technically trying to think of ways to save the games. He's trying to think of ways to win the games and to have Lucy Gray still alive. You know, it's something where like, yes, he wants her to win, but he also wants to save her because he likes her. But at that moment when he comes up with all these ideas, you know, he doesn't have those feelings as strong yet, I guess. Anyway, so he comes up with all these ideas of like, you know, ways to like make the games, so like come up with ideas, because he sees that she's an entertainer. And I've seen this on, you know, I've seen this in reviews or Twitter or whatever, like Katniss was a fighter forced to entertain, or a fighter forced to perform, and Lucy Gray was a performer forced to fight. And so he noticed that she was a performer, and so he saw it to make it more of like a performance. But that's kind of how the way to get people to watch. Like if you make people feel bad for these people, and you make people like have something personal where they want to root for people, like it makes so much sense with like society and nowadays, and like all this stuff, and like things that we watch, like, you know, and like how we, like, it's so real. And so that's how Suzanne is a genius. It's so real, it makes so much sense. But it's crazy, like all these things happen, like even like, you know, it's so interesting to see, which I'm probably going to talk about in my next video, how like, you know, the games are always just in this one thing, and it's just them fighting each other. But then, you know, obviously in 74, like they change the games every year, you know, like where it is, because people want to see something new, and people wouldn't just want them to see them die right away. They want to make it a show. They want to make it longer. They want to make it entertaining. It is a show, but not now, not in the 10th Hunger Games. So it's kind of crazy. There was all that like bombing and whatever that happened, and then they still continued with it the next day. But it's kind of cool because it changed like the landscape of it. And it's crazy. Then he like went to her that night and he like almost died and whatever. And it was crazy that like no one was really like paying attention to the games. Like it was like a side thing, like Lucky Flickerman or whatever he's called. He's like, dinner reservation, I have to push it back. But it was kind of crazy because then Cornelius like went into the arena. Like I, you know, obviously didn't read the books, so I didn't know it was gonna happen. I was like, that is insane. He's like in the arena and he kills someone, but it's crazy because no one's watching, no one's paying attention like it happened. But yeah, so I felt like the first two, because there was 3 parts, the first 2 parts felt, you know, more similar, and then there's this third part where he then goes and he's, what is it called? Whatever, but he goes to District 12 and they're finally together, but then there's this whole thing about trust. And so it's something where he barely survived the Hunger Games himself. So we're getting more into the villain stuff. This video is already getting long. But he barely survived the Hunger Games himself. But he's finally with his girl, but like he then has all this stuff with his friends. I don't know. Anyway, he keeps killing. And it's something where he keeps killing people. And you know, he also like almost, he's trying to make it back to the capital. Like he makes it clear he's trying to get back to the capital. Like that is his goal. I'm gonna try to wrap this up because this video is getting long. It's this whole thing about trust, and then it's just him and Lucy Gray, and it's something where like she felt like she couldn't trust him, and then she, you know, I originally hated the ending when I first watched it because I just felt like it was like an empty ending. It was like unconclusive, but I think that's the point of it. It's unconclusive. Like he loved this person, he was gonna give up everything for this person, and then he thought like she killed her, and it was kind of this like, that's like the Olivia Rodrigo song, like she's in the breeze, she's in the whatever trees, whatever, because it's like something where he doesn't know if he shot her, he doesn't, you know, maybe he was hallucinating her because of the snake, like was she really there? You know, like did she actually try to kill him, or was she trying to get away? So it's something where it's like maybe she got shot and then she died somewhere else. Like it's this thing where we don't know what happened to Lucy Gray. Like we don't know if she's dead. We don't know if she like, you know, ran away and found freedom. Like that's a thing. And so it was something where like he had this like, he, you know, then, you know, did so much for this person, like all this stuff, and like he feels betrayed, and so he just goes back to the capital, and you know, with all this stuff from his past, he then kills again. And so it's something where he like, I think he feels kind of dead inside. So I think it's kind of clear how we see how this guy became a villain. Like clearly, like he probably does even more stuff, and I'm kind of interested to see like who he is in the 50th movie. I'm sure they're going to cast someone else, but I'm interested maybe to see, not the 50th movie, the 50th Hunger Games, sorry guys, but I'm kind of interested to see like, you know, how he has grown over time. And it's kind of crazy, you know, we'll talk about it in the next video, but like how his effects of like this girl from District 12 and then this District 12, it's like kind of crazy to see it when he like loved this person. But you know, I kind of feel for it, and I love like romance tropes, and I love like, you know, stuff where it's like you can't be together but you want to be together, and then you're like risking it all for a girl because you like risked it all for a girl, all this stuff. So it's actually like a beautiful and great movie, and I think the ending works, even though I feel like, you know, it feels like I'm a little bit empty inside from the ending, but that's I think the point of the ending. So it's like hard to be like I love the ending, because even though it makes sense and it's the right ending, it like makes me feel a little dead inside too, and I think that's the point of it. So anyway, we're gonna end it here, but you know, obviously I talked a lot here, and we're gonna talk a lot more in comparison the two, but it's just really great. And Susanna is an amazing writer. I've heard me even likes this better than the Hunger Games. I mean, I can't imagine me ever saying that, but when you're like, wow, like, you know, the Hunger Games, it gives so much more context to the Hunger Games and how the Hunger Games got to where it is. So we're gonna end the video here, but thank you guys for watching. Of course, the next movie of the week is Hunger Games from 2012. So comment below your thoughts about this Hunger Games movie, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes from 2023, and watch the Hunger Games from 2012 for next week. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and bye.